Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of this training. In this session we will be discussing about Logon Group, which we briefly seen how does the Logon Group supposed to work. In this session we will see in detail. The SAP system sometimes has significantly more than one or two instances, meaning to say in a larger landscape you are going to have quite a lot of systems in place. Each of the instances offer specific number of work process. As we seen, you can have multiple work process and which can be different in numbers. Based on the size or hardware size, we can have different number of dialog work process. In that cases, this applies very much. The situations sometime that if you let's assume that you have one instance, you have quite a lot of workload within the specific instance, then which will increase the load of the system, whereby the load distribution will not be managed properly. Meaning to say, I mean to say, long dialog work process. For example, you are in Sap Gui, you log into your SAP system, it takes quite a lot of time to process your work process your program. Meaning to say, you logged in directly into the system, you have a lot of users working on the system, and the system cannot allocate the work process on time. That could be the main reason, which will leads to poor system availability. Okay, that's one of the main problem in your SAP systems. One of the main problem in the SAP system if it is not managed properly. Meaning to say, if you have heavy load in RFC request, for example, which will occupy a lot of your work process from the external system, or if you have complex background work process, you have so many background work process put in the systems, then you cannot manage it properly, or you have lot of update process going on. This all will lead to system availability. This all will lead to poor system availability. So what is the solution for this? That is Logon Group. The Logon Group basically will solve all the load distribution problems. Let's assume that you have more than one instance in your SAP system. So how are you going to distribute this load to different work process? What we have seen, for example, you have quite a number of RFC calls, that means remote function call, which is coming from an external system. Then how are you going to manage this? How are you tell this remote function calls that you are not allowed to use the resource which all other people are using? Instead, I wanted to give you one or two servers. So there this logon distribution comes. There the logon groups come. So what we can do, we can create a logon group and give that to the specific external system which is calling in our SAP system. Then they will use only the specific resource. Okay, or we can also do Logon Group for background task. If you have quite a lot of background process running, you can create a group, or let's assume that you have a couple of users doing some background task. So I can give you a typical example in the practical scenario. If you see in a bigger organization, you have shared services. The shared services does quite a lot of operation in the month end and year end closings. They run lot of transaction, they run lot of background jobs and to close these accounts, and it's a quite a lot of heavy work will going on in the month end and year end closing times. So they will run quite a lot of background jobs. So in a practical scenario, this will always be a challenge for if to manage this one. So what normally we do, we will allocate some resource which will have more background process, work process for these users, and create a group, and they will use only this one. Okay, then they, in that case, you can give them additional resource to run background task, and the same time the remaining resource can the same time the business can use your remaining resource which will not be interfered. That's a practical scenario. So however, it does not mean that if you create a logon group and give it to the user and that's the only solution what we have. There is a lot of solution we can do here. That's the interesting part of SAP. Let's say you create a job server group. There's something called job server group. You can create a job server group, then you use that job servers group to schedule jobs, then it will go to the specific server, specific group of servers to do this background jobs. That also possible. Yeah, that's so what we mean here is that you have quite a lot of solution, not only Logon Group. Yeah, so Logon Group generally we also do it in a different situations. Mainly the situation comes in a practical scenario is dialog users. Let's say if you see here, you have a Logon Group 1 and Logon Group 2. And Logon Group 1, you can see we have central instance CI, and you have D1, D2, D3 and D4. Okay, these are all the dialog instance. Okay, so what happens is if you create two Logon groups, okay, and your database is only one anyway. Okay, so let's assume that you create one Logon group with all this one and give it to all the users. Then the distribution will happen automatically balanced by your message server, which you can see in the middle. Message server will come into picture when you log in, and it will distribute to different users. Some cases that you need to have two different Logon groups, meaning to say, let's say your business demands that okay, I have 2000 users, I have 2000 users, two different region, but most of the time one of the region users always logs in and they'll occupy a lot of resources or something like this. Yeah, I'm just giving a weird example. I'm just trying to give an example. This may not be a practical scenario, but different examples. Let's say you want to divide it based on regions, and then you can divide based on regions, and then you can have a distributed resources for different region or different countries like that. Or some cases we can also say, some cases what we have seen, some of the customers like to create Logon group based on modules. For FI users, they wanted to have specific Logon group. Okay, that's also possible. Okay, so if let's assume as an end user, I can log into Logon group 1, also Logon group 2. Okay, so if I have a Logon group 1, I will log on to the Logon group, then my message server comes into picture, then it will see what is the log distribution which we can do with all these three servers, the dialog instance and the central instance. We have two dialog instance and central instance in this group, and it will check and it will provide it will go to that particular dispatcher. That dispatcher will allocate one work process where you can start working on. Okay, so if you don't have this Logon group, you directly come to one of the dialog instance or central instance. So if you have Logon group, go to Logon group, message server, dialog instance or the instance, whereas you go to the dispatcher will allocate the work process will run the program which you will interact with the database. Same like other user, maybe he will log into Logon group 2, then he will end up in the dialog instance 3, maybe you take one work process and start working on it and go back there. Okay, so this is the way it is been distributed in the Logon group. So the Logon group is very important topic in the load distribution. So server load distribution is very important and it's a crucial topic. So you need to come up with the ideas based on your scenarios. But in my view, in my personal view and personal experience, what I will say is, don't distribute it like this as a different groups and servers. In my view, I won't distribute into different groups. For me, I will create one single group with all available resources. Let SAP manage it. It's my view, because message server have very intelligent logics where it can distribute the resources properly. However, we will create additional Logon group for specific functions. Let's say I want to have a Logon group only for background jobs because I have a situation like that. Then I will put all these things in one group. I will take out one dialog instance and take it out from here, or keep it there, or create one more group and say that you use this one Logon group for only for specific purposes like a background process, whereas I have more background work process on the specific instance. Okay, that could be my idea. That is, most of the consultant does like that. So that's a better idea, because the management of the load distribution anyway handled properly by SAP. So you really do not need to separate it like different Logon group for normal dialog works, not normal users. So if you have some scenarios like background jobs and RFC calls which you want to separate, or which you don't want to interrupt all the others work, then you can separate them. That means you are not going allowing them to use the existing resource. Instead you are bringing them out. So if you don't do that, if they also log on to this Logon group, let's say sometimes the RFC calls will call simultaneous calls. If you do a simultaneous call, you are going to lock all the work process. It will choke the entire system. The system will go hang. Okay, let's assume it's a small system. So instead of that, what you will do is you will create one Logon group. In that scenario, let's assume in our scenario we create one Logon group altogether. So you have a problem now. You have an external system calling lot of RFCs, which is also using the same Logon group. So what happens is normal business user, maybe you have 1000, 2000 users who cannot use the system, because this RFC, the external system, is taking all your dialog processes. Instead, you create one group, okay, which will have some couple of processes, and give it to the RFC system. So even though it has lot of requests coming in, it will go on first in first out basis based on the Logon group and that specific servers. So it will not affect the other servers which the normal end users are working. That is the practical scenario. That is the normally is the actual scenario what we do. Now we will see how we can set up a Logon group. Before that, by default in SAP you have a Logon group called space. By default it is there already. Okay, you can also use that one. The space means basically if you go to the Logon group configuration screen, you can see there is one blank field that's called the space. So we can also use that one. So but let's go and create one Logon group. Okay, it looks like this. For example, this is a Logon group created for the Logon group public, which has two servers. You can see here. QRFC, it has one server. The same server is again used here on the space, the default server, and the test. If you see the public, that is the normal Logon group used by everyone, which has two servers. And QRFC, one Logon group have one server, one of the part of these two. Yeah, you can see the same name, and space and test. Okay, what is done in this particular system is that they created one more Logon group for QRFC, for RFC calls. Okay, which is actually part of this public. So if there is no RFC calls, it will be the resource will be used by the dialog user who is going to log in. But if there is an RFC call, they will use only one server, so that you are not disturbing the normal day-to-day operations. If let's assume the RFC calls are quite high, it has to manage within this particular server and it cannot interrupt this server, so that the normal user is not affected. Okay, that is the idea behind this one. Okay, let's log into our system and see how to create this Logon group. Okay, right now what we have is we are directly logging into the instance. Okay, this is the one we have created. We put the application server IP address or the server name, and we directly log into the instance. That's a central instance. Okay, let's say if you say ECC demo, this is our system name. Okay, so let me log into the system. Okay, SAP basis, put the password in. To create the Logon group, you can also follow the menu path. If you go to tools as usual and go to CCM. Okay, CCM means continuous control monitor, and you go to CCM, and here you go to configuration. Here you go to configuration and you can see SMLG Logon group. Okay, click here, then you will come to the screen. Otherwise you simply type SMLG. Okay, Now if you see, you have a logon group which has no names there. Actually, we did not create any logon group in the system so far. So let's create a logon group. In our case, let me remind you again, in our case we have only one instance, we do not have multiple instances. You have seen in the presentation, if you have multiple instances, how you are going to manage it. Okay, now but the steps to create the logon group is same. There is no much big difference. There is no difference at all. So here what we can do, we can also create, or we can also assign a logon group here, or let's say change it here. So right now if you can see, the logon group is just blank. Yeah, so if you want to assign a logon group, you can assign it here. Let's say SAP underscore basis. Okay, this is our logon group. Copy. Okay, or let's say you can have multiple logon group. Okay, then you say create one more, and you would use the same server anyway. Let's say SAP BG jobs. Okay, and instance you can select here and add the instances. Okay, if you have additional instances, you can keep adding it. Okay, don't come to the screen. Then you can add addition. No, let's not talk about this. Then say copy, then you have additional one more logon group. So if you want to have additional instances to be assigned, then you will create one more and select the logon group, existing logon group. Okay, and add the additional instances and save. Then you will have the same name with an additional instance. Okay, say copy, then it says already exist, meaning to say right now I created two groups with the same instance. So let's assume that I have one more instance which is 01. I want to add it to the logon group of basis. So what I will do, I will simply create, say create. This you can do anytime, whenever is required, meaning to say you have right now I have only one system. After some time I added another system which I want to add it to the logon group. Then I will select the logon group, existing logon group is basis, and I will select the instance. In our case I have only one. Let's assume in your case you will have one more, second one. Just select that one, click that, then you have this your instance, then say copy. So what happens is you will have two lines where the logon group is same SAP underscore basis. Okay, that is the idea behind that. Say cancel. Okay, so this is how to create the logon group in our SAP system. Okay, inside the SAP system. Now we need to see how are we going to use this logon group when you are configuring the Sap Gui. So far what we have seen, we put the IP address of the host, we given the SID and other parameters. Okay, let's go to the Sap Gui. This is our normal logging into directly into the system. Yeah, we gave the host name or the IP address and we directly logged in. Now to create a logon group, right now we have basis and SAP BG underscore jobs. Say create, say next. Here right now we are going to log into the logon group, not application server. Application server will go to one specific server. Okay, go to logon group, then give a description. The description can be, let's say SAP basis group. Okay, system is ECC, put the system name, and message server. Where is the actual message server available? Okay, So in the central instance, so we need to specify where is the message server. Okay, is cc demo, where is the message server is available. Okay, in the other case we will give the application server directly. Okay, here we need to specify where is exactly the message server, the host name of message server. Okay, in our case we don't have SAP router. Then you come to then the group and servers, where by default what we seen by default we have the group name called space, and we need to have SAP underscore basis and SAP underscore background underscore jobs. So if you click here, then it will display, it's supposed to display the logon group. I think it looks like we have a problem here. I don't know what is the problem. Let's see what is the problem. So what is the mistakes what we have done during the configuration? Maybe we did some mistake. By default this is anyway comes space and the specific server name. Yeah, but that's not what we want. We want to have our logon group. Okay, so the mistake, it looks like what we have done is we created the logon group, but we did not save our configuration. Okay, so we need to save the configuration. Simply say save. Now the changes are saved. Let me go back to our Sap Gui. Go back. Let me put the ECC demo again so it can query the okay. Now you can see that we have the logon groups here. Okay, select one of the logon group which appropriate for you and click OK. Okay, so if I double click here, it going to log on here. It comes to the same server, but again as I said, if we have only one server, if you have multiple server, it will go to different servers. It depends. Yeah, so SAP basis, it says you already logged on to different system. Let's say continue. Okay, so now we logged in using a logon group. Okay, that is how to create logon group and configure it in the SAP logon pad. And remember one thing, we need to assign the service port in the Windows, otherwise you don't get the logon group. Okay, so let me go to the service port and show you what is service. If you know about Windows administration little bit, then you have the host and service file. Okay, where do we find that? If we go to Windows Explorer and go to your C drive, go to Windows and go to system 32 and go to drivers, then go to etc. Here you can see the host and the services. The host file contains all the host name and its related IP address, and the services contains all the TCP/IP ports. So I will open this. You open this with the notepad. If you see, you can see all the TCP ports. If you know the TCP/IP, you will know what is this TCP and UDP and stuff like this. We will not get into these details. It's networking topic. So we have all the port address which is published here. Okay, for SAP you can see from here SAP DP00 like this. These are default ports. It's all, you can see it here. So as soon as you install Sap Gui, you get all the default ports. So if you do any changes, then you need to do these modifications here. Okay, in our group we need to specify here SAP MS message server ECC. This is the port. Okay, 3600/TCP, where you can see here ECC means that system ID, and 00 here is the instance number. So our instance number is 00. This we have to add this. If you don't have this one, you don't get the group in your Sap GUI. Meaning to say, when we put the ECC demo, it was querying the groups to the Sap GUI automatically, if you have seen. Okay, that will not happen. So it cannot connect to the SAP system using this port, then you cannot get that. Okay, so we need to add this, you need to add this entry manually into your service file. Okay, then only the port will be enabled. Okay, please keep a note of this. Okay, this is how to create a Logon group. So let's go back to our presentation. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of this session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.